Hey guys, I know I've been starting a lot of new projects lately, but a lot of people have still been requesting the first person shooter tutorial. So we're going to be going over that today and just starting off our project. So already set up the main scene here. I just laid down a flat plane with the texture on it and some effects for shaders. And then I set up an enemy and our player. Now for our player, we're just going to be using the first person controller, which is a built-in controller into Unity. So it'll be under standard assets. If you don't have that, when you first create a project and you don't import it, you can import it just through here. Just go assets, import package, and character controller, and they'll all load up in here. And you can drop down that, you can drop down that, and we have our different controllers. So we have a third person controller and a first person controller. So you just want to drag and drop the first person controller into the scene, and it'll just show up like this. Now attached to it will just be these things. We'll have our camera here and our first person controller. You can go through, you can adjust the different settings for each thing to what your liking is. You can adjust the sensitivity. I believe you can adjust the height of how high up the camera is, or you can adjust it yourself and whatnot. And then we are going to be attaching the fire script to this, which we're going to be creating in this tutorial. I'm going to be going over. I just got this off the Unity forum since I haven't programmed a first-person shooter thing yet. It's pretty much just a raycast. It's the same thing I was going to set up, and we can spawn different things at different locations. So yeah, I just grabbed this off of the Unity Answers thing for what worked for me, since it's a lot easier, and I learned a couple new things in here. For the hit transform send message, I didn't know that you could actually send a message to the hit object and call this function and plug in damage and deal damage. I was doing it a completely different way, so this taught me a lot and it'll teach you guys a lot. I also threw in some of my own code here just for the draw texture and show cursor, and I'm going to be editing up all this code to be adding my own touch to this, other than what the basic setup is. But yeah, it should help you guys out a lot. It helped me out a lot. So yeah. So what we have here is shot sound. So whenever you fire, you can play an audio clip for the shot fired. Blood prefab. If it hits the enemy, then you can spawn a blood prefab. So just it could be anything, any kind of prefab that you want for your blood. So I'd recommend going into the particle creator and creating some kind of effect for a red mist or something like that, or blood splatter or something cool like that. Spark prefab, so if it hits anything that's not our enemy, it'll create a spark. Now you could probably set this up so if that raycast hits something like a different tag, like if you had a wall tag or a floor tag, maybe your wall is concrete and your floor is metal, you can swap out for the different prefabs for that. I might be editing that and covering that in the future. And here I threw in a crosshair. Now I pre-made a crosshair that's 64 by 64, and I tossed it right into here. So this is where the texture goes, and this is the information for the place on the screen. So we're centering it to the center of the screen, no matter what size the screen size is, and then the size of your texture will go here. Now that we have all that set up, you just want to go ahead and plug each of your variables or each of your prefabs into these locations. Now currently I don't have any of that set up. In the future I'll get that set up so we can see it a lot better, but we can still see in our debug.log if we shot the enemy at least, and it'll show subtraction of health. Now right now I might change this back to what this was. You can set it up, if it's get mouse button, then as long as you're holding down the key it'll constantly be firing. This way you have to actually click, lift up, and click again to fire again. So you could set it up so there's different types of fire. So if you switch a weapon, it might have different controls. Maybe it's a semi-automatic instead of a single shot like a pistol, so you'd want to have different controls for that. So we can set that up in the future as well. So this is just a basic setup here. So I guess I can go through this. So if there's a sound, you play sound when it shoots, when it activates this function. Hit raycast, we've dealt with this before, and it pretty much just sends out a forward raycast from our location to wherever we had the cursor aimed at. Or I think it's from it might be the center of the screen. I think I have to enter it to be the center, or edit it to be the center of the screen, because for some reason it's not firing exactly in the direction that I want. It'll be a little bit upwards and to the left when I'm firing instead of staying in the center of the screen. So in our next tutorial we'll probably have to fix that. I'm going to probably go over my previous code that I made before, where you can send a raycast from the center of the screen outwards, forward, so we can use that to calculate instead of what this is calculating right here. But for now, this is our basic template that we're going to be using. So down here, hit transform tag. If the tag of the enemy is labeled enemy, then we do all this stuff. If not, send sparks. And for this, hit transform send message. So I guess send message is a function for the hit object that you can send, and you can set it up to, this will be the function for the hit object. So if the hit object is enemy, apply damage is the function, so that calls the function in there, and 5 would be for the new int that's created here. And yeah, it sends message. I don't know what don't require receiver means exactly, but that must be another setting you can set. But it'll plug in the damage to here and it'll deal the damage. So from now on, when I'm creating these types of tutorials, when we're applying variables to different tags and stuff using raycast hit, I'm going to be applying damage this way. And then yeah, just the sparks prefab if you don't hit anything. So that's pretty much the basic code for now. But yeah, other than that, just create a plane, create a point light, and then you want to create an enemy. Just call them enemy. You want to go into your tags and add a new tag for enemy and apply it to your enemy right here. And yeah, that's all you need to set up. We can go in game real quick, we can look around, we can walk around real quick. So you see here, first person controller set up, so you can look up, down, wherever the mouse is pointed. I don't know if in the screen recording software if my mouse shows up on the screen, but it's hidden while I'm recording right now. And you can jump, it's got gravity, you can jump and look around and such. You can fire. I had it set up before, so when I was firing, it was just firing a random bullet prefab, but I'm not going to be using bullets since I'm going to be using raycasts. But when I get other prefabs made for everything else, I'll start applying that. So what we can do is bring up the console real quick, and we'll fire off here, over here, nothing happens. If you fire on the enemy, you can see the health in the debug start going down. If I fire over here, if I get close, every time I click, and then it starts going negative. So we're going to have to adjust that in our next tutorial to actually delete the prefab when it gets below 0 health or at 0 health. So that'll take about 2 seconds to add in there, but I also want to do some other things with the enemy. I want to cover a lot more AI in this first-person shooter tutorial, and a lot of other cool stuff that I wouldn't be able to implement in other tutorials. I was talking to someone about the game mechanics from Halo, where you can put up nodes and it'll tell you what distance you are away from that node, so you can walk to it. Once you reach it, a different node will spawn and you can start walking and following it to get to different locations, just to guide the player to different areas. So I really don't know what I'm going to do with this first-person shooter so far. I know that I want to add in jetpacks and changeable weapons and different stuff like that. currently we don't have it. I don't have any models modeled up for any of the weapons or anything like that. I want to implement melee attacks and different stuff like that. So it's going to be a more futuristic shooter. Maybe I'll do like a futuristic zombie style shooter or something like that. Something cool. Um, I haven't really created a shooter before, so I guess we'll see what happens. But hopefully, you guys enjoy the tutorials I've been making. Hopefully, you guys enjoy the C# tutorials, and stay tuned and keep watching.